I am Daniel Likis, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have two special guests, no other than Mr. Daniel and Miss Eleanor Moss.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for having us on your show.
Welcome to Book 101, both of you. This is my second time that I have two special guests. And can you please introduce yourself, both of you?
Of course, thank you again. We are the co-founders of Truth of You, and our pathways have been different that allowed us to converge at this moment. At this point in our journey, I found myself, despite presenting as a strong, successful, independent woman, being quite lost inside, definitely stuck, and being highly disconnected from myself. And all I've known is how to live out split realities, thinking that I had it all out there, but not really knowing, not at all knowing who it is that I was on the inside. Because in either reality, even though they were split, I found that there was no Eleanor left in either. And that was established through different paradigms and has been in existence over decades. And when I realized that the success was becoming the suffocation is when I decided that, I did not decide. The soul came through and said, enough, and it cannot actually be that way. And it is from that point that the healing journey and the unconscious realm opened itself up and has provided so much insight and life force back into areas of my life and also Daniel's, which were not even starting, but they were just stagnant or never got off the ground. And even coming into gnosis of certain paradigms that were destroyed because of how we have lived our lives. So we can share more on that. So
Yeah,
it is a bio that seems to be quite transient and more reflective of the journey. But I think that's really important because what it may look like on the outside is definitely not what it was on the inside.
for sure. So, Mr. Daniel,
Wow.
can you please introduce
Yeah.
yourself?
So Eleanor's on the right track with mine as well. With it's been the spiritual journey. Looking back, my life has been one that there's been challenges that just haven't seemed to go the right way. There, things haven't seemed to just get started. You don't know why. You try and you just can't make sense of it. Eleanor had the success without, and then the void within. Mine was more like I can do stuff, but things just don't feel right. And so essentially, I started on my own spiritual path and learning, and then we came to meet each other through work, but not in a conventional sense. And that's really when we were able to just start talking about deeper things. And she was essentially my refuge from the world as well, to really go that there is someone here that I resonate and connect with. And there's been everything's changed from that, really, from where I am today to where I've been. And now we're together and building a business, and I actually have direction, I have clarity, I have gnosis of self, and everything is making sense. And what more could you ask for?
Yes, for sure. Discover the truth of you because you are too big to be this small. I love it. Awesome. Congratulations, both of you. And thank you for sharing your business, your talent, your books to the world. So, what's inspired you to become an author, Mr. Daniel? Yes.
So even though we were great friends for several years, and the energies were building, we might say, there were blocks. At least with me, I'd resided to not looking for another romantic partner in life. I was done with relationships. It's too many headaches, too much divorce around me. Like I've seen, it's just not worth it. That's what I had concluded. But little did I know that the heart had a different agenda. And so Eleanor she offered to go to Queensland where we'd have past life regressions together. And it was when I had my regression that all of those walls, all of those blocks, everything came down. And the years of the love that I was building unconsciously all surfaced at once. And it was so much that I knew I had to say something. So that night after my regression, Eleanor mentioned that I came out a changed man. And it was that night that I said something and we got together.
Yes. Congratulations again. So, can you tell us about your writing process for your
Writing
books?
Yeah, definitely. So we do want to write our book based on our cosmic journey, and in order to do that, past lives has been key to where we are. That's why Daniel shared what he has. Understanding the fabric of our past lives and how we got to where we are today is absolutely the key to generating the model of how we want to present our story to the world, and also really through our experience and through our story showing people that there are more forces at play than, I don't want to say only the human experience. So us becoming past life practitioners, Daniel, we're in the process of, but being able to access the wisdom and the information from our soul is absolutely imperative. It
was a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a lot of the content that we put out, and much of the speaking that we do is showing people that whether it's through the medium of speaking or writing, that there are soul level lessons that are playing out and bringing this to people's awareness. So that is one big part of the process. And also coming into our voice. We can make some astrological references, but voice is respectively a very important part. And I love writing. Writing is my refuge. And when I can't write, it's a block of the voice. But the thing is, people can write, and I have written books in the past, and I am very proud of them. They are cathartic and they are representative of the time itself. But coming into your most authentic voice, where you are speaking out of a deep place of resonance, where all cells in your body vibrate in the same direction, is really important. And when a lot of I know for me, and Daniel's had different challenges with voice onto itself, really learning how to connect with your own authentic voice, that you are speaking your own truth. Because I know I had that where you parrot or you parody, or you're not speaking from a place where you excavated your own wisdom from deep within you. And that makes it, I don't want to say harder, but it is far more challenging to speak or write with such a level of conviction. So a big part of the process with anything that we do seek to write is really learning how to connect with the voice and how it's meant to be expressed. And communication is, just as imperative for Daniel, if you want to explain. Mercury.
Well, I mean, astrologically, I'm a Gemini rising. So Mercury rules my chart, everything communication. And it's also conjunct my North Node. So the North Node being my life purpose. So it's also one that I need to learn to communicate. So Eleanor's, naturally, good at writing and doing this. For me, it's more of a process of understanding that it's a big lesson for me to learn how to communicate what I know. And I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm learning a lot as I go, but it's one that getting out there is a big theme that I'm working on and picking up as well, because Eleanor's told me how many times, how much information and wisdom really I have to share with the world, and as she said, with the past life information, what's coming through is so valuable that every practitioner that's doing this sort of work needs to speak it, because it's missing out on an enormous dimension of knowing yourself. To know what's really going on under the hood of your own psyche is something everyone has access to. Yeah. And it's helping me gain guidance into how to use that, how to get past my own challenges, blocks, and self-doubt. and it's slow, but it's really one that as it starts moving, I'm seeing it move quicker, and I'm seeing all these walls come down very quickly. And yeah, I'm sure, maybe once I start writing, I might even be able to keep up with you.
Very
I
well
think also,
said. Very well said. Yes, people, communication. Communication is very important in everywhere. So, what challenges have you faced in your writing career for both of you?
what I was going to mention as well is having the experience. So it's one thing to write out of theory, or to collate ideas and to just present a body of knowledge to someone. And I started writing my fifth book on that, and I parked it because I was relaying, I guess, more lessons or theory that I've come across, but I hadn't actually connected with the direct experience of that. So being able to now write from a place, or attempting to eventually I finish my fifth book, but writing from a place of direct experience and allowing the experiences to play out as they should. Like, I started the book, and Daniel's going to be contributing within it, of course, and at this point we might even split the workload. But allowing the experiences to unravel as they need to. I know when I started writing, I would share a lesson, but what's the solution? There were so many perspectives and dimensions missing to it. So sometimes you want to finish a book so quickly, but there are still direct experiences to be had that lend themselves to the writing process. At the same time, some books can only be written whilst you are actually experiencing it in the moment. When I wrote my third book, it was when I had left corporate, and it was a very turbulent time, and I both felt unjust towards the system, and it was just, there were so many things wrong with it. And that book was a cathartic experience, if anything. Yes, it has, professional and personal value that is principle based, but I could have only written that book at that point in time where it was that small window. I was still connected to that world and still had an emotional reaction to it. There's no way now I could write a book for the corporate world. I don't have, the connection to it as well. So writing is such a beautiful, interesting process. It requires you to look into such deep parts of yourself that you didn't even know exist if you actually take the time to sit there with your own thoughts. And that's why I think, people may struggle with being able to write or put together any body of knowledge, because it requires you to sit with your own thoughts and present them in a way which isn't using your audience as therapy, or just that's not that's not what writing is meant to be, but creating real value. And that's something that Daniel's writing is, his skill in writing is just so, it's profound, because he has the ability to condense such density into something that is so profound, and it just forces you to stop in your tracks and actually think about what is being said. And none of that comes from, being an armchair philosopher. This is direct, this is lived experience. So that's my answer to that, if you want to speak to challenges of writing.
Well, the irony is that I haven't put out too much myself. It's just been messages and to family, friends, Eleanor, and other people. As I've come to learn it, I don't want to say I'm necessarily shy. I'm very careful with what I put out. I don't want to put out the same thing everyone else does. I don't want to rehash the same stuff unless it needs to be said again. Sometimes that is the case, where people need to hear the same thing over and over. But I also feel that doing it in a unique way, that it offers something different. It offers a new perspective, particularly in the case of the way I want to communicate. It's in a way that really tries to simplify things. We carry such complex or fuzzy notions, especially of things like the soul and the spirit and the dream world, and they don't need to be. These are things we can learn to connect with, in the way you can learn to develop a skill, in the way you learn how to drive a car, or, do a degree at university. It's the same thing. You just go through the process, You understand what you're getting into, you understand what tools you need, and then you practice. So
Indeed, practice make you perfect, as they said. Sorry for that, but
In the moment of experiencing writer's block, trying to force it out or trying to mentally, construct something and just forcing it out is not going to work. I know in those moments in time, I need to step away from the laptop or the chapter. Maybe it's moving towards, a different chapter, or not trying to just force something out. And when the block is, it's also an opportunity that I may not know enough or have not experienced enough about this particular topic, or I'm simply not meant to write it at this point in time. Something else may need to come into fruition, and that's happened a few times. Even with, my fifth book that I'm working on is I stopped writing it when we got together because I'm like, I couldn't have expected this plot twist at all, and I know that we have a certain cycle or, chapter that needs to be played out so that I can actually start the book to finish it at the same time. So respecting that it is a process, not everything can come into fruition at this point in time, and honoring the creation that it is. It can't be written faster than it needs to as well. But also knowing how to get yourself into flow state, because sometimes your publisher said, I need the book by this date, otherwise you miss your editing window.
yes.
Then you do need to get it to a level of completion. So getting yourself into flow state and knowing what that is for you individually is really important. But even before all of that, something a bit more practical is planning. People go into writer's block because they don't know what they're writing about, who they're writing about, what is the experience of the book, the post, anything, any form of communication, and also, what outcome, or when a person puts down this piece, whether it's 50 words or 50,000 words, what is the experience that they are to have of this? And then, yes, that does need a certain structure around it. And without that plan, then of course, writing feels chaotic and you don't know where it starts and where it ends and any of that. So being able to plan is critical, but you have the plan and then you put it aside and then you do allow the creation process to come through. And sometimes, I sit there and I don't even remember what I wrote because it came through me. And that's what you want. And Daniel's done some phenomenal, pieces of like introductions or resources on the Truth of You website, which it has come through him, not from him. And being able to access that state is quite important to overcome that writer's block. But if there is a block, it is there for a reason. We investigate it and see how that reroutes the writing process.
Very well said. So what is your favorite book that you have written and why?
Written. I think it's the one that hasn't been born yet. I think it's
coming.
I think it's the titles that we want to write our book about our journey. And I can't say that anyone is the favorite. They were representative of that point in time, and I honor it for that. But I wouldn't say any is a favorite. I think the favorite ones are the ones where we have both lived life on our own terms with, with the values that we are embedding into our life, our business, our everything, and really following that, that heart-centric mission, and then birthing a book from that. That one is going to be my favorite one.
Okay, I salute for
And his.
that. So what will be the title of this coming book?
It's not coming anytime. So my fifth book is Powerhouse in Prison.
Hmm.
The book that we will write, it'll be loosely around, our cosmic journey. We have not settled on the term, but in the week that we got together, we knew that we were going to write this book. Daniel was talking about how to weave in astrology, which has been so imperative to our relationship, and weaving in the past life narrative. And we're not, even with any literature that we put out, we're conscious that We want to make spirituality accessible and palatable and practical, and not for it to sit in some out there space that has no relevance to the everyday human experience.
Yeah. And it's also about, we want to make it more, you heard the saying, feed a man a fish versus teach a man to fish.
Wow.
We also want people to always remember at every step of the way that they're in the driver's seat. We want to make anything that we put out always one that's helping people to recognize that they're here to claim their own power. We're not here to give you the answers. We can give you tools, but it's up to them always to know. And that's also, that comes back to the wisdom in our communication. How do you essentially sell something that it's like, this is on you?
Yes.
It's a tough one.
So how did you know that you have a chemistry together?
It's just there. You just feel
There's
it.
a
Like
spark.
you don't have any, well, like writer's blocks, you don't have any sort of emotional blocks or anything like that.
Mm.
I'd say with before the relationship, there were heart walls that we had up against relationships or challenges. But I will say with the regression, they, at least for me, they all came down immediately. And I just realized right then that what was there, really there were a few blocks against just, I don't want to say so much taking the leap, but it was recognizing what the reality of my feelings for Eleanor was. But when the regression happened and I saw beyond all of the stories that I would tell myself, like writer's block disappearing, like the flow just happened. It all just, the universe approved it energetically, shall we say.
And think of it when you read a book and the book just captures you, it speaks to your soul. You cannot put the book down. You are just, engrossed and raptured by that. Everyone has that book which just stopped them in their tracks. And that's very much the experience as well. It's, think of the greatest book that was written for you, by you, to you at all points in time. So it is not too dissimilar of an experience.
For sure. So what will be your advice for the aspiring writers out there?
Well, you're at a good point to also start connecting with, writing, but everyone does have a book within them, and it doesn't have to be a book. There are so many mediums. People can write something, speak it on a podcast. It's broadcasting, and there's many different modalities. Sure, a book seems like a huge feat from the outset, but before I started writing, I would share content on social media, and that really loosens up the mechanics and learning how to structure and write. At first, one social media post took me an hour, and it would sometimes be 4 sentences. It would take so long. But now it's like, I can do this as well. So believing that everyone does have, a story within, and if they haven't connected to it yet, there are so many more experiences that are ahead of them that, is affording them the opportunity to share a message. But for people who really do want to broadcast a message, you do need to do that deep investigation to understand your voice, your purpose on a soul level. Let it resonate from that perspective, because that is, there is a spiritual starvation of sorts in, in today's society, where there is just so much, Daniel gives the analogy, there's so much like nachos and fast food, and you feel great eating it in the moment, but it's not soul fulfilling. So to broadcast from that place does require that deep investigation.
And to still do it in a way that keeps up with the high pay, like the high speed of today's social media world and everything like that, also adds another layer of challenge. There's so much information out there, but not a lot of wisdom, especially palatable wisdom that's concise.
Yes, definitely. So can you give us wisdom for those aspiring writers out there?
I'm more of a talker than a writer, so I'm going to give this one back to Eleanor.
I think it is connecting with that, the message that your soul wants you to broadcast. That is what the person you have to become in order to then put out a book or any body of knowledge based on that is phenomenal. And Daniel was throwing around ideas that he wants to, or he may put out literature and the map of reality. It's like, think about the person that one would need to become to map out reality, and that speaks to his, his character. And
It's a tall order.
it is a very tall order.
Yes.
So that's, I think when there is so much information, there is a lot of misinformation. Where is the return to wisdom? Where is the return to also the simplicity in all of it? So I think that is a good start for those who are aspiring to write, but it starts also with just a simple belief that you do have a book within you and you do have something worth sharing and saying in this world.
Yes, yes, for sure. Wisdom, people. So, but before we go on, I want to please invite you to purchase one of my audiobooks available on Audible. Stand Together, Breaking the Chains of Bullying. And of course, my book 101 Review, Volume 3. These are my 100 episodes of my first season of Book 101. And of course, my Earth Fever, my climate change, the unraveling climate, and our race to restore balance. Again, and my book 101 Review, Volume 2, selected. These are my 100 episodes of my first season. And book 101 Review, Volume 1, highly recommended. And one of my self-help book, Threads of Existence, Weaving the Tapestry of Life. And Life is Too Short, a journey of discovery, fulfillment, and joy. Available on Audible. People, please do purchase them and enjoy listening to them. So, Mr. Daniel and Miss Eleanor, what are some themes or topics that you are passionate about exploring in your writing?
Spirituality is, a fabric that weaves different, bodies of writing that we put out, whether it's, freebies on our website or books intricately weaving the principles of this and that which we have come across that aids our own consciousness exploration to come to the truth of us or the truth of you, because that is the two most important questions as Daniel framed: who am I and what am I? So we focus a lot of the writing and the reading that we do around that. Daniel reads a bit more, I would say, dense, esoteric.
Yeah.
I
would say consciousness is my biggest theme and interest. It's the idea of how do you even know how you came into being, to experience. We want to start diving into the more surface level ideas of being, like the human experience, but most people never even question who or what they were before they were born. So to really understand what the essence of you is, like, we have to go so far beyond what the human is that, and it also requires a certain type of courage as well. That's also the thing as well. So when you start going there, you start getting these big themes start coming up, these big archetypes start playing out in the universal realm. Like Jung talks about this, for example, and such. But it's just the idea of recognizing that reality itself is an experience that most people seem to lose touch with as they get so caught up in having, enough money or making enough money or go chasing something that they're interested in. And they're missing the essence of what it even means to be here, to have that experience to begin with. And that's what I always love connecting with.
Yes, very well said, Mr. Daniel. Very well said. So, what are your short-term and long-term goals in writing?
Short term would be to, I want to, finish my 5th, but it can only happen once. Certain things play out, but also landing in my authentic voice, landing in the voice which is in complete resonance with all parts of my being. Voice for me is very important. Not having it means not having access to many different parts of me. So coming into my own truth and the truth to be able to speak from such a point of deep wisdom as well that has been excavated from your own deep unconscious. So that's the short-term goal for me.
And mine, well, they're centered around my own growth and spiritual exploration. It's about the relationship, and it's about the business. Short term, it's to put out more content. I'm getting into the habit of really going, the world needs to hear these messages. There is too much. There's too much that's not being said.
Yes.
And there's a lot of, as Eleanor mentioned, there's a lot of junk food. No offense to those who put that out, but there needs to be a balance. And my short-term goal is to sort of balance those scales with more simple divine wisdom, both my own and others who have already stated the truth. And then the long-term goal, as Eleanor said, it's a tall order, but something like writing or producing something that maps out reality itself, reflective of my own experience and incorporating the other models throughout different cultures and history, and simplify that for the everyday person today to understand.
Good luck for your goals, and I hope you will be successful in life. And can you please invite our listeners to support your books, your business, or any content they want to promote?
Of course, we are at truthofyou.com.au. We are the Eleanor Moshe and the Daniel Darman on Instagram, and it's Truth of You Official on TikTok and YouTube as well.
Yes. Mr. Daniel and Miss Anelard, thank you so much for your time.
Our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Bodycon people, see you soon.